I'll fight the good fight, I'll keep the faith, I'll finish the race, lay down my family. I'll fight the good fight, I'll keep the faith, I'll finish the race, lay down my family. I'll fight the good fight, I'll keep the faith, I'll finish the race, lay down my family. I'll fight the good fight, I'll keep the faith, I'll finish the race, lay down my family.
Killing of innocent people, hate and persecutions, earthquakes, fire and floods, love growing cold, but we have something to hold firmly inside our hearts. Faith and hope that soon this will pass, and only His name, Yeshua, will last. Time is passing by, and soon we will fly. We'll see His coming through the sky.
That many don't love. Well, praise Yah, hallelujah. Welcome to Hebrews News. I'm Revelation Rock, and I am a Shliach of Ahava. That means that I oversee the love around the world, and I'm trying to bring the love together, unify the people in love. And it is a big task because people do get caught up in religious wineskins. They get caught up in a lot of other things. And then they think that what they're doing is scripturally accurate. And unfortunately, it can cause a real riff. It can cause a real problem. And I'm just going to tell you that ain't love. They think it's love. They think what they're doing is love, but it ain't love. So we're going to possibly point out some things that could you know, bother you today. And that is not a negative thing. When you preach the word, it states very clearly that conviction is going to come. So on Hebrews News, it's kind of a little different approach here. What we're doing is we're attempting to help you to understand that we need, excuse me, we need to notice I got my Let's Go Brandon cup. We don't need that anymore, I guess, but I thought it was kind of funny. Uh, I do not like your mental haze. I do not like your leftist ways. I do not like your son on blow. I do not like you, Sleepy Joe. So I guess I did, when I grabbed the cup, I did say, well, maybe I should tie it into Hebrews news. And what we really want to do is we don't want to be the doom and gloom, but yet there's a lot of doom and gloom, unfortunately, that is the news. That's what's going on out there. The good news is I believe that there is a generation, a remnant, a people that are rising up and are taking their positions in life and in this world, and they are the righteous, and the righteous run into it and they are saved. So we are going to really try to give you that positive perspective that there is a fight, there is a battle that is constantly going on. We start with a long shofar, and the trumpet will sound by Eliana. which points out a lot of things about end times that's very real. Okay. And the song is a wake up call. And I was, doing Good News by Mandisa as an opening song because we do want to bring the good news. We do want to be a positive program and be an encouragement to you. Unfortunately, the sugarcoating and ear tickling is really not what I'm supposed to be doing, or any of us as teachers are supposed to be doing. We got to tell it like it is. And sometimes to talk about murder, which I did yesterday, and someone said I was negative. Well, I listened back to the message. I actually was quite positive, because I was coming against the fact that people struggle with the Torah. And the reason they struggle with the Torah is this: the Torah is going to tell you the difference between right and wrong. And no one wants to be told that they're wrong. Nobody. So, last week, the message was a man thinks he's right in his own eyes, right? And it's very applicable. A man does think he's right in his own eyes. And this is something that, is in the proverb, and we shared it last week. I want to take, a dovetail off of that this week and just say, no one wants to be wrong. No one wants to be wrong. So, if we look at that aspect, it's huge, right? Because as soon as you start teaching right from wrong, do's and don'ts, or in other words, the Torah, which is what it is, it says right in the word that the Torah is supposed to teach us or tell us what sin is. So the reason that, news can be such a negative thing for people is because they see all the wrong. They see all the don't do this, don't do that, and people are doing it anyway. And some of them are doing it with pride and with arrogance and with haughtiness, and they are just steamrolling over other people, over other people's lives, and then there's a victim on the other end. And this is what I had to overcome in my transformation and transform recovery. I had to overcome being that victim, and no longer being subjected to those that were going to abuse me. Okay. The abuse that we deal with in transform recovery, and I do have that pulled up, just to kind of highlight some very good news, is that we walk in the solution, and that solution is for us sharing a path or a journey that you can go on of your own personal transformation. Now, I say your own personal transformation, but realistically, we all have to work out our own salvation and in fear and trembling, but our own personal salvation shouldn't be our own personal higher power or our own personal beliefs. It has to be a transformation that is scripturally or kitve or, according to the word, the debar. It has to be based on that. So the positive news is that we are not going to lose, sight of the main thing. Okay. We have a solution, and that's a very positive thing to share with you here today. We've got a solution, and we don't have to be subjected to the enemy and what the enemy is trying to say and what he's trying to do and how he's messing with us. We don't have to be subjected to any of that. Okay. We can overcome, which was why, Mandisa was a very powerful one for us to, work with. And that's because she really has some great songs. Now, the unfortunate, and this you could say, well, why did you have to bring that up? The unfortunate or negative side of it is, she passed away at a very young age, and she had struggled with food addiction for a long time. So, as much as she was working on a scriptural system of whatever that was, and I didn't know her personally well enough, I wanted to meet her because, Transform Recovery doesn't just deal with drug addiction and overcoming drug abuse. Okay. Transform Recovery deals with all forms of abuses. Why? Because the scriptures deal with all forms of abuses. So if you haven't studied the word, if you don't really know what's in there, and that debar is not just jumping right out at you like it does for me, don't worry about it. Don't be, negative. Don't be, try to take this, attitude for yourself in your future. Understand they don't understand. Understand they don't understand. And that'll take a big weight off of your shoulders. And in an addict sense, addicts, one of their challenges is they want to control others. So there's a natural tendency to control others. And, me as a, person, when I get these aha moments or these discoveries in recovery where all of a sudden the revelation comes, and that's why I'm Revelation Rock, I get all these revelations. Well, when the revelation comes, just because I got the revelation doesn't mean everybody got that same revelation, even if it's totally grounded and founded in the scriptures, in the kitve, in the truth, in the emet. Maybe they didn't get that revelation yet. So one of the reasons that things are being shared in Hebrews News, and big part of the news story today is Transformed Recovery. And, Sand and I are on a mission to develop the program in its more mature stage now, after many years helping other people to transform through a scriptural system that I didn't develop. The scriptural system was developed by the Creator himself. Okay. So you need to understand that a lot of what we're talking about when we say transform recovery is not going to be figured out by osmosis or by just you attending, some of these radio broadcasts. There's an in-depth scriptural system that will be laid out for people, and it already is somewhat, but what we're doing is organizing it and making it very easily accessible to go right to the point, right to the point, right to the point of how do I overcome my rage that I fall into, not every day, not every week, but maybe once a month or once every 2 months. I have a blow up, right? And I'm not saying myself, although I did yell at my wife last night, and I'm very sorry for that. And she said she was sorry to me, and I don't know that I've even said I'm sorry back to her, but I'll say it, publicly right now on the radio. I'm very sorry that I blew up. But I had an individual, and I know there was a button there, and I got to get the butt out of the way because there's no minimization, rationalization, or justification for me expressing that kind of a rage. And it wasn't like I threw things, or it wasn't like I hit somebody or hit her. It wasn't that kind of rage. And I, definitely many years ago lived under that kind of anger. Throw things around, destroy things, hit the gas and get the vehicle up to, over 100 miles an hour, insane, crazy, stuff, right? Years ago, all that kind of stuff did happen, That's part of my testimony. But the reality of it is, and here's the good news of the day, that we can transform. We can overcome. In fact, it will be essential for us to endure to the end. And the scripture tells us that the ones that are going to be saved will endure to the end. So there's going to be a lot of days in between the end and right now that we might all have our, little halo kick off to the side, or maybe even fall off our head entirely, or the crowns that we're establishing here on earth. And we've done some in-depth studies on crowns. I'm at the stage at this point where I just want to earn more crowns. That's where I'm at. I really am not questioning whether I'm going to make it into this everlasting life. It's just, what position will I have in everlasting life? So after you kind of get the basics down, you got to go there. So what's great about transformed recovery is systematically it will take you through your rock bottom reality all the way to, I'm doing great now. I've had these awakenings, and now I'm going to share these awakenings with others. Okay. And just a second. I got my speaker freaking out. Come on. This is one of the worst things that can happen. Oh, why are you doing this to me? When you have an external speaker that is really expensive, you pay a lot of money for it, but they put the speaker that I got, right? They put it with attachments, okay, if you will. And those attachments that they put it with, the plugins, as they go in and out, as you travel and you unplug it and plug it and unplug it and plug it, and you move it around and you're doing things, they get bent. That's a problem with the HDMI cords as well. So that's what just happened. Was I took the microphone off of the table because it kept fading in and out. So you see these weird things fading in and out. When you have a background like this, the unfortunate thing is they only let me work in this box. See? So I'm being very real with you. You can see where my hands get cut off. So I got a box that I'm in. And I'm one of those kinds of speakers that's all over the place. So my arms are going to go off into the wall. See that? I'm not going to slap the guy sitting next to me because there's not really a guy sitting next to me. This is a virtual reality that I'm in, right? So anyway, we have a tiger by the tail here of solutions. Very positive message that I'm giving you. Very good news is that transformed recovery is alive and well. And I'm saying it's alive and well, not because I have a house full of people right now, not because I'm running rehab in my house right now. In fact, transformed recovery is probably more challenged and less alive and well for me when I have all those problems that people are, because when you bring in a new person to rehab, you bring in a new set of problems. Okay. But remember, transformed recovery is not about their problems. It's about Yah's solutions that he's given us, that is to overcome those problems. Okay. So it's a very, important thing to understand. Right now, one of the reasons in the finality of writing books of why Sand and I don't have anybody in the house is because, number one, we don't want to have all these problems facing us, staring us in the face of another person that lives with us, and even when you have, and we love, Onyango Obute, we love him dearly. But when you have a missionary in, you know, yeah, he came, but he came with his own set of or own group of problems, that he brought with him. And every human being has this group of or list of different problems that need to be solved. So when I say, solutions, transformed recovery is about solutions. It's a very positive message that's in this. Okay. So I did want to make that very clear, as we're doing the broadcast today, to understand transformed recovery is the core of everything that Love Inc. is doing, because we can't have a minister on our team. We can't have anyone that we can really have a healthy, loving relationship with until they've worked through their own transformation. Each individual. In fact, all of you out there, even the relationships I have with everybody, if you're not working on your own transformation, if you're not working out your salvation, as the scripture says, Yeshua, we all have to work out our own salvation in fear and trembling. Now, I think the fear there, and I really want to look this up to see which word is in there for the Abrahi or Hebrew language, because I think it's really saying we all have to work out our own salvation in respect and trembling. I don't think we're sitting back going, oh, I'm scared. It's not that kind of fear. It's, I'm working it out because I respect what is in the instruction manual, the Torah, and I am going to do my very best to start to learn what it is first. I got to get the knowledge, pray over that knowledge so I can get some understanding, and then go out and guard it, practice it, do it, be it. Okay? And then know that as you begin to, this is where we say work a program, work a program. What does that mean? It means you are doing the word. That's what working a program is, as they call it in, secular side of life, the AA, the NA, the rehabilitation programs, that take a lot of money from you and a lot of times don't give you as much as the wonderful free programs like ours, which is free in many ways. The majority of what we got, we give it all away. We give it away. We give it away. We give it away. We haven't charged for counseling. We haven't charged people for all of the mentoring and the encouragement and the group sessions and the one-on-one sessions and let's go rescue this guy from the dope house sessions. Let's go get this guy from jail. He's getting out. Let's be an advocate. Let's talk to the judge. Let's talk to, the probation and parole. Let's go do some things. Let's do. And, until you've really gone out and done, then you only know the stuff in theory. To make these things become a fact for yourself, you have to do them, and then it becomes an experience. And if you pray over that experience and you ask Yah to show you everything you're supposed to learn from the experience, you'll probably start to get wisdom. You'll start to become wise, and it'll be a great situation for you. And I hope that you have that experience, because it's been wonderful for me. And I'm so grateful that I have had to go through all the hard times I've gone through, because I wouldn't be the person that I am today had I not gone through it. Would I, if I could say I want to do it all over again, would I say, yeah, give me more problems because I want to grow more? No. I don't wish problems upon any of us. Okay? Life is hard. And that's Yeshua's words. Yeshua said right out as he prayed to the Father, he said, Father, your will is hard. You know, I read the other day, well, if he was the Messiah, why would he pray to himself? Or why would he pray to God if he really was God? And people were having this thing, and it's like, you don't understand. He was here on earth. He was, he made himself into a human body so that he could do all the things we're supposed to be doing and set a perfect example for us of how to live a life without violating the instruction manual, without violating the Torah, without sinning, but rather instead totally winning day after day after day, just winning and winning and winning and winning. I love the fact that, the fleshly disciples, the Talmudi, or Talmudim, I mean, of the chosen, when you watch them, they're like, okay, what's next? What's next? And they're waiting for the next miracle. They're waiting for the next sermon. They're waiting for the next thing. And what Yahusha, what he comes back with is, I think I'm going to go and pray. And sometimes he, would invite somebody with him, like Shmuel or Samuel. Shmuel, the Pharisee, he invited him to come and pray with him. And what happened was, as he was on the beach, he sees Yeshua walking on water. Now, we don't know that it really happened that way. We can't see that in scripture, but that's the dramatic, cinematic way that they put it out there. And it is kind of a cool, thing. He was trying to get through to Nicodemus. He was trying to get through to Yosef of Arimathea. He was trying to get through to Shmuel. He was trying to reach the Pharisees, the religious guys, just as well as he was trying to reach a bunch of fishermen and a tax collector and an architect and all kinds of different people. He was trying to reach everybody because everybody's included in this message that you can go from the old person that you were to a new creation that you can become. And that's the hope that's in this positive good news story today, is that we do overcome. And, it's a decision that we've got to make. So, he does the majority of it. He does the majority of the transformation. But the decision that we have to make is that we are going to submit to that authority. And, when you see people that, you tell them, well, what you're believing is very religious. It's not even in the book. It's not in the scriptures. And they go ahead and they try to minimize, rationalize, and justify the positions that they've taken. This is a really sad news, bad news that I have to deal with regularly, because I have to deal with the modern day Pharisees. And just like Yahusha, there was a handful of them he was able to get through to. There was a handful of Roman soldiers that he was able to get through to. But all he needed was a handful. All he needs to get this ball rolling down a hill was a remnant. So the good news is, for me, and it encourages me, is you can't control these people. You can't make these people. You can't get anyone to do what you want them to do. That's hard for an evangelist, because an evangelist wants to win that nefesh, that person's, innermost being. He wants to win their lebs, or lebaim, or their hearts. He wants to win it. Okay. And, if you have that gift in you to evangelize, to be the outreach guy and the inreach guy all wrapped up into one, or gal, right? Then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You want to win the person. And when you see them backing off, okay, it's hard to take. When you see them not only back off, but now start to question you, they're going to question your motives, they're going to question your knowledge, they're going to question your understanding, they're going to question what you did and whether you really have experience or not. And they're going to question whether you're a wise person or a fool. And honestly, what you discover as you watch that progression of them stepping backwards because they're rejecting the good news, your heart's going to really be saddened if you are really having the right heart yourself. It's a very sad situation to endure with people that reject that. And honestly, it's not a negative, it's just the truth. Many of them over the years now, I'm 37 years going on 38, right? I think. Wait a second. Now I'm screwed up. No, I am 38. Yeah, I am 38. I got less than 2 years and I'll be 40 years clean and sober minded. And really the abstinence from the alcohol and the abstinence of the drugs is really just the beginning. That's real. I mean, I know when you're trying to get unhooked, right? Or you're trying to get off the drugs, it seems like it's going to be, the greatest, biggest thing. And you go through a little honeymoon period in that first year thinking that you're all that because you overcame that. But then you got to realize that the jerk that you were, the the horrible person, the rotten person, all the stuff that you were, just because the drugs are gone doesn't mean that horrible, rotten, dirty, no good dog with lots of defects of character, lots of strongholds, lots of flesh, all that stuff doesn't mean that stuff's still not there. Okay. It just doesn't magically go away because a lightning bolt shoots down from the sky and you're healed. You're healed. He's been delivered. We see a lot of people that go out there and that's all they want to do is they want to witness and they want to testify that Jesus got them off drugs. But then once you start spending time or investing time with a person like that, what you discover is they haven't transformed into a new creation at all. All they did was quit drugs. In AA, they call that a dry drunk or a dry high. Drugs are gone, alcohol's gone, but you are not working a program. You're not working those 12 steps. And, going back to this image here, this transformed recovery has, and it's interesting because it's a 12-step program, and the scripture that we base the program on is Romans 12. And there are 12 scriptural steps, okay, that are in this scriptural system that we're bringing forth. We can identify, and it's in the book, okay, so all of this is so real for you. We can identify that every one of those 12 steps from AA, and they've been rewritten, obviously, by myself, because I believe he's chose me for such a time as this, to bring this forth into our society. With all the fentanyl deaths on the rise, with all the suicides on the rise, with all the obesity on the rise, we could just go right on down the line. The increase in gambling, the increase, all these addictions in the world have been increasing. You may say, oh, that sounds pretty negative. No, we have a solution. This Romans 12 scriptural system that we're talking about has 12 steps that a person has to take. These are not optional. These are not negotiable, just so you understand. These are very real scriptural steps that must be taken. Okay? You have to take them. If you don't, you will be incomplete rather than being complete. You might say, well, what do you mean complete? Complete is another term that's used in English for what we would call perfect, right? And for all the ways that man has villainized being perfect, we know that Yahushua, we know that he himself was perfect. And he set that or put forth that example for us, right, of perfection so that we would have a model of what to shoot for. I mean, if you can't agree with the fact that when you see, all right, here is the A plus student, right? And they are not only an A plus student, but they're actually a really great person. If you don't see people like that when you're getting educated, you're probably missing quite a bit. You're probably missing a lot because there are people out there that are really wonderful people. And all of these stipulations that would bring forth what perfection is, they got all of that and they don't have the drugs. They don't have a food addiction. They don't have this. They don't have that. They may be addicted to education and being a student, which can also become sick as well. So, there's a hidden thing in there when we look at this A plus student that could be there. I'm not saying it's with every person, but people have a tendency to go towards various different addictions, and it can be a real challenge as this is happening in life. So all we're trying to tell you is that you can overcome that. You can position yourself to overcome anything that this world can throw at you. And some of you maybe I've met people like this. It's strange for me because the only people that I really wanted to hang out with was other people that did drugs because I felt uncomfortable around clean people towards the end when I was 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old, 21. I really, I didn't enjoy hanging out with normies, as I called them, or goody two shoes, as I called them. I didn't like it. All right. As I've grown and I've become a new creation, and my Yah esteem has developed because I did follow a scriptural system that in many cases I didn't even realize was a scriptural system in the early days. I just followed what Yah was throwing at me and causing me to be convicted about change. So this was, a line of discussion, that came forth whether we can handle change or not in, some of the people I've been dealing with recently. And, I already know by experience that many people don't want to change. That's just the reality. So, when we look at what they call the serenity prayer, which I guess is, based as a Catholic prayer and, different things. So I'm not trying to push religion on you now, but I do want you to know there are some good things in there. And I've rewritten it, so I'm going to give you my new version that I think is a great way to pray. And that is, Yah, grant me the serenity or grant me the shalom. I like shalom better. In fact, to even make it stronger, Yah, grant me the shalom, shalom. Okay, because when you say shalom twice, it's even more powerful. So Yah, grant me the shalom, shalom, to accept the things I cannot change. You know, uh, unless I had the belief of an Elijah or a Yahusha, I can't change the weather. So I have to work on, if I want to make a storm calm itself, right? And if I'm walking on water, because my belief is so strong, my amuna is so strong that I'm walking across the water, the storm's going on, and I say, be still. And all of a sudden that storm chills out. Or like, when Elijah was taken down, I know him as Elijah, and then there's Elisha. When he was taken down those altars of Baal, I think it's important to note that there was a major weather change that he was able to be involved with in that story. So you might say, well, I can't change the weather. So Yah, grant me the shalom, shalom, to accept the things I cannot change. I can't change the weather. Well, you can't change the weather with the attitude or the mind that you have right now, the belief that you have right now, the trust that you have right now. But those are all the things that we're working on increasing. And I would have never had the belief that I could have, laid hands on Carol Knorr in Sheboygan and have her sight be returned, because I wouldn't have had before that point, which was now, I guess, I think it was around 2009, 2010, when that happened, maybe 2008. And somebody just said, hey, Rock, you got the gift of healing. Now it's a gift. It was given to me for free. I'm not the healer. He's the healer. He gives the gift of healing to some of us that ask for it, because it says we're supposed to pray for the gifts. So, I want to make it very clear. We can't do anything. I can't calm a storm, right? I can't heal a person. I can't deliver someone from demons. I can't deliver them from, the abuses that they suffer under, whether it's drug abuse or sexual abuse or physical. I can only be used by his power within the realm of my belief system, which has got to be on a scriptural system, a Romans 12 scriptural system of transformation. That's all I got, So we are going to be bringing this forth very quickly. This has got to come, and it's going to be a main thing that my wife and I are working on, because I look at, okay, all the things that are out there in churches. Are there other recovery programs? Of course. Of course. But then I have to look at each one, even if it's Celebrate Recovery or whatever, and I got to say, okay, is that a religious recovery program? Or is it a scriptural system, a Romans 12 scriptural system of transformation? What is it? And I do not see anyone having a Romans 12 scriptural system of transformation in place anywhere. I've never seen it. If you know of one, you can type it in the comments right now. You can email me, RevRock, REVROCK, at YHWH.LOVE. That's REVROCK at YHWH.LOVE. RevRock at Yahweh.love. I am wanting to hear from you. And I'll make sure I check my spam, because what sucks is when you put yourself out there, you get a lot of weirdos that start writing you, a lot of people that, start texting you. And by the way, that number is 414-333-0593. That's 414-333-0593. That is my personal number. I'm going to tell you, please don't call it. Text it. Okay? And then try to get on my calendar for an appointment, because I am very much in the zone of having to keep my life organized, and I'm not flying by the seat of my pants, as I do a lot of times with street ministry, where I'm getting carried away in the moment of people's problems, which is why having people living in your house and you're trying to run rehab in your house can be a big problem, because it is constantly dealing with problems. They're in your face. They're in your face. It could be the person's bad attitude. They're bringing a bad spirit into your house. So if you'd like to do transformed recovery somewhere, there is a training system that is attached to the scriptural system of Romans 12. The Romans 12 scriptural system of transformation that I'm talking about is, first and foremost, this book that's coming out. You will have to master that book, which is a lot of scriptures. I mean, just on the 12 steps, I want to make it very clear. I'm just warning you, okay, that there's about 40 to 70 scriptures that is applicable to every one of the 12 steps. So believe me, Yah created this program long before this century, back to, a bunch of Lutherans in a church basement that came up with 12 steps, or the Oxford Society that spun it off from there, or Bill Wilson that spun it off from there, or Jimmy Kay, who spun it off from AA to NA, because those that were on narcotics back in the day were not welcomed in AA meetings because they didn't want those slimy, no good drug addicts coming into their AA meetings. I'm going to tell you, this transformation is open to everybody. I don't care what sin it is. I don't care how horrible that you think you are or have been. It's not about what you've done in the past, how much or how little you have, who your connections were, or anything. All it is what do you want to do about the problem? And the first thing I'm going to tell you is, go to the bathroom or wherever you have a mirror in the house, look in the mirror and see who the problem is. Because if you're in the blame game and you're still pointing the finger at everybody else being the problem, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. And I'll guarantee you that if you counseled with me, it would be very uncomfortable if you're in denial of what I just said. If you don't think you're the problem, and you're so used to being the victim that you can't take responsibility for the choices that you've made in life, it's going to be really hard for you. And I'm sad if that's who you are. And I think that's what I did, was I ran into a person this weekend that is in that position. And they're older, So when people are older, now you're talking about habits, bad habits that they've been living with for many, many, many years. So what is a Romans 12 scriptural system going to do? It's going to create new habits that are wonderful. They're phenomenal. They're miraculous. They're things that are so life-changing, so transformational, that you'll never be the same again. In fact, the longer that you are working those transformational principles, the longer you're working them, the less you will recognize that old person in the mirror. And I hope that gives you hope. I hope if you're a parent that's hoping that your child will do this, that you too will also go through transform recovery, because just like they have Al-Anon for AA or Nar-Anon for NA that affects the family and the whole family gets sick with the addict, I'm going to tell you the whole family needs to transform. In fact, transformation isn't just for drug addicts. It isn't just for food addicts. It isn't just for gambling addicts. All you perfect people out there that don't think you need to transform. I'm just going to tell you, you can go to the mirror right now too, and you can say, you're the problem. You think that you got it all going on. You think that you're all that in a bag of chips. And I'm here to tell you, Mr. Pride. I'm here to tell you, Mr. Haughty. I'm here to tell you, Mr. Arrogant. Your rock bottom reality is going to come when you realize you're not God. When you realize you don't have the power within yourself to get this done, this perfected life. The only thing that is going to work is your relationship that you can get through recovery, transformed recovery. You will develop a super solid relationship with the one who made you. Wow, that is great news. I mean, you want to talk about good news and sharing good news with you today. I'm telling you that the one who made you is the one who's going to transform you into the one that he saw you being before you were ever birthed in your mother's womb. Okay? And he has good plans for you. He has plans for you to prosper. He has the ability that you can take a hold of right now to give you a hope and a future. So I was accused of giving a negative message last night. So I wanted to bring forth a very positive message today. And that is, you can transform by the renewing of your mind. And you can come into the perfect will of Elohim. And you can achieve, you can succeed, you can win over sin with this Romans 12 message. You can. There's no question that you can do that. And I'm here to give you hope today that my hope of doing that was in him, because I couldn't do it. My rock bottom reality was I couldn't do it on my own. I needed to get help. And Yah sent help when I prayed. So the first thing I did to get help was I said, help! That's the first prayer that many of you need right now to overcome yourself, is you need to cry out for help. And he'll hear you. And if in that prayer you say, send me the people that can help me, there's a good chance that some of you are going to want to connect with us. So if we're not doing physical transformation in our home, we're doing, just so you do understand, we're still doing transform, but we're doing it more on a virtual basis where I'm beaming in. Beam me up, Scotty. I'm beaming into your home through a computer, and we're going to have some conversations. Hopefully right now, you're listening very closely and you've beamed me in. And here I am. Hi. Hi. And I'm here to help, So when you're crying out for help, we can help. But it's not going to be me that saves you ever. It's going to be an army of people that have been equipped like myself, and it's one of the jobs I have is to do the equipping. But as I equip more people and more people and more people, those people will go from I want to be transformed to I am transformed by the renewing of my mind, and I have come into the perfect will of Elohim. I am now to step 12. I've made it through all 12 of these, and I've had an awakening as a result of these steps, of all these 500 plus scriptures. I've had an awakening, and now I can carry a message to other people. The first message you'll carry is just by you walking the walk, not just talking a talk. They'll see you're different, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened to you, but you're different. Or some people just ask you, what happened to you? And it'll open up an opportunity for you to do the Revelation 12:11, where you're going to defeat Hasatan by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. You're going to be able to give out a testimony to people. Okay? So you're going to kick the devil in the face in a lot of ways once you get to, solid scripture step 12. All right? And notice we don't just call it step 12, we call it solid scripture step 12. So the big difference right out of the gate from any other program that I've ever seen is they just call it step 1, step 2, whatever. We call it solid scripture step, or SSS, because we need to differentiate what we're doing, because otherwise I'll tell you what happens when I start explaining, well, what is your ministry? And I start talking about transform recovery. They go, oh, you're like Celebrate Recovery. No, I'm not like Celebrate Recovery. Oh, you're like Overcomers, or you're like this, or and it's like, no, I'm like what we see in the scriptures. That's what I'm like. That's what transform recovery is. What you see in these other programs, they might have, a taste of that, but they don't go full throttle. They don't go all the way. They don't put it all out there on the table for people. They just give you a snapshot. And I'm grateful for all those other programs. That's great. You're helping people to transform, but it's kind of like, why would you take anything that's man-made when you have the opportunity to have something that's Yah made? I mean, I really have had to submit myself and make sure that this program was not about me. It's not. It's completely about He who saved me from myself, because I was my worst enemy. And many of you, when I say that, you can relate to it. You can say, oh man, the man in the mirror, that's a huge one. Yeah, the man in the mirror is actually a book that the Assembly of God gives out to people. Okay? I don't know if they still do it. I think there's a couple places I've stopped at and they give that. That's their form as a church to start working with people on their transformation. It's sad that they don't still give the book out, because it's actually pretty good. There's a lot of really great things in there. And all these programs, they have good things about them. I'm not condemning other programs and saying, oh, these other programs suck, you got to do it. No, I'm just trying to make it very clear we're not them. As much as what I prayed to share with you, what I heard over and over and over again was, this is to be His program, not Rock's program. This is Yah's program. Okay? And it's going to teach you how to become who you were created to be, because you're going to get back to the basics of where the scriptures start, which is we were created as human beings, as man, as woman. We were created in the Yah image. And woman was created differently than man. And that's why we have to have separate bathrooms. And I'm so grateful that there are US citizens right now that are stepping up, and they already passed it. I mean, it just bam, it went through in the Congress when it was brought forth that, no more men in girls' bathrooms, because there was a congresswoman who was in the bathroom in a brand new freak show state. You could probably imagine what state the person was elected in. Freak show state. They have elected a transgender, which is not a woman, it's a man. And, as one of our, I don't remember who said it the other day, but it was a military vet who has a news program. I think it was Greg Kelly, or no, maybe it was David Harris Jr. on Newsmax. But he said penises don't belong in a woman's bathroom. I know it sounds blunt. I know it kind of just right in your face, but it's the truth. And I would not want that. I mean, I've had an issue that there are homosexual men in men's bathrooms that they're looking at you when you step up to that urinal, and it's a very uncomfortable position to be in at that urinal when you were sexually abused by a man, raped by a man, date raped by a man, put something in my drink. So I lost all my strength. I lost all my faculties. I was laying on the floor, passed out, as he was, down there doing something. My pants were unzipped and whatever. I was 18 years old. All I could tell you is, yeah, I have been very weirded out big time because of the drama, or people today call it PTSD or whatever, that comes from being raped. And not only raped, but raped by someone of the same sex. And when you're a very strong, naturally heterosexual man like myself, this is just so horrible, so horrific. So my personal view is they don't belong in the men's bathroom. So yeah, if we have to in our society create 3 bathrooms, one for men, one for women, and then one for people that don't know what they are because they're confused, then I would say the sign for them should be, 2 hands going like this, right? It should be sitting there like this going, because they always have a picture, right? For the people that can't read. So there's definitely the guy that's got pants on, and then they got another one for the females that have a dress on. The guy that doesn't know whether he should be wearing a dress or should be wearing pants, he should be going like this, like, I don't know what I have. I mean, that's the only solution that I can find. And that's not condoning that they are confused. I'm not condoning their confusion. I'm telling you that if they got into transformed recovery and they would work these solid scripture steps, they would work through their abuse issues, because statistics are proving that almost 90% that call themselves homosexual, lesbian, or, trans, or any of this kind of stuff, confused people, 90% of them were molested. They were sexually abused by a pedophile when they were a little boy or a little girl. That's a fact. You can go check on my statistics on that. But I'm going to tell you, it will screw a person up so bad to have to endure that pain. So is it a big issue in the news? Yeah. Kamala Harris ran on it. And the most positive news that I have, hallelujah, the most positive news that I have for you is Donald Trump ran against it. No men in women's sports. And a transgender is still a man, whether he wants to pretend that he's a woman. And I don't care what surgery, I don't care what it is. You can look at the body of that person and see the muscular structure of that athlete, and you tell me that's a woman? This is why everybody has questioned Michelle Obama of whether she's a transgender. Look at her muscular structure. Her hands are bigger than Barack's. Her feet are bigger than Barack's. Her shoulders are men's shoulders, not woman's shoulders. You can look from head to toe and you can see a man. I could be wrong, and Yah forgive me if I am. But when did this push towards all of this really, really take off? Barack and Michelle Obama, they perpetrated this. They perpetrated this upon the United States of America. And it finally came crashing down because there's enough people who want to say Yah's will be done on earth as it is in Shamayim, and, deliver us from evil. Deliver us from evil, Yah. And there's enough people praying this in America, because here's the great statistic against that 90%. The great statistic is over 70% of Americans still believe in prayer. Now, I believe that they're confused, many of them, as to what to pray, how to pray, why to pray, etc. But at least they believe in prayer. That's a start. We got to start somewhere with the broken person. And that's what we also do in Transformed Recovery. If we don't have prayer as our main focus, which is why we have a thing in the morning, every morning we do praise, prayer, decree, and declare. If we don't have that as a foundational situation, I don't think we have much of a program at all. Our program doesn't mean anything if we don't have prayer, if we don't have praise, which is being thankful, being grateful, and thanking him every morning when we get up. Thank you for this breath. Right? Thank you, Yah. Breathe in fast. Thank you for this breath. So we got praise, we got prayer, and we've got positive things that we want to start having coming out of our mouth, which is why it bothered me so bad that somebody said when I have to talk about sin, like I was supposed to do in a message yesterday, that, I'm not being positive. I teach people how to be positive. The people that come to me as broken people in Transformed Recovery are some of the most negative people on the planet. They hate their mom. They hate their dad. They hate their brothers. They hate their sisters. They hate church. They hate the pastor. They hate. They ain't love. So we have got to teach in the declarations, in the decrees, and the declares, we have to teach people about love. And what is the greatest declaration? And it's a commanded prayer, the Shema. Let's just look at the Shema in the Yeshuic Berit, or they would call it in Christianity the Yeshuic Covenant. Look at this. Right here is the Shema in what you call the new covenant. So tell me we're not under the Torah. Are you not under this instruction? Here it is. Now, I don't like this version, but I didn't have time to really look for many more of the of the graphics, to put up, but I did put the Scripture 2009 version over on the other side. So, in the Shema, I said, teacher, which is the great command in the Torah? And Yeshua said to him, you shall love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your being and with all your mind. This is the first and great command. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. That is the Shema. Now, to add to it, the verse before it in the Torah, which is Devarim 5, which is what the Jewish people focus on, that. And that is Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad. That means Yahweh is one. He's not divided, and he's not about division. So you can think that when I say these things, standing up for him, standing up for his word, that I'm dividing. And it's like, no, that's what religion has done. Religion divides people, not rock. I'm about the transformed recovery. They call them traditions in AA, the 12 traditions. We don't call it that. We call it what it really is scripturally, and that is, and I've had to change some of them because they're not scripturally accurate, but the first one is accurate, and that is about unity. So Devarim 6, or Deuteronomy 6, verse 4 is actually and we call them bodybuilders. The most important thing to build the body is to unify the body. And if someone is not unified with his body, his family, if they're not unified with that, then they're not part of that. They're not part of the body. They're not part of the family. If they're not going to unify with what he says the rules are. This is my Father's house. This is Abba's house. This is Abba's house of worship. This is Abba's home of shalom. Okay? Sand and I have submitted our house to him. This is his house. He gave us the talent to be able to do the things we do. We couldn't do none of it without him. So, Abia, I pray for the nations today. I pray that you pour out your Ruach HaKodesh, as it says in the end, in the book of Yaul or Joel, it says that you will pour out your Ruach. And I believe that's already been happening. More and more people are starting to have supernatural experiences with you. And there's a transformation. There's things happening in people's lives where they're leaving religion and they're coming into relationship with you. And I pray for more of that to happen. And I pray that more people will pray. If they want to pray with us and they want to learn how to pray with us, or from us and through us and whatever, I pray that they will find us and that we will be able to come together each morning and pray for the nations. Pray for all the hurting people out there. Pray for all the families that are divided so that they can become achad, so they can become one. But we already know that Yeshua said the families are going to be divided. So we know what we're up against. We know because you have already showed us in your word. So we walk not ignorantly, and we walk not in fantasy island thinking that things are going to be tickling our ears and everything's going to be honky-dory and just, the only way that things are going to be great is when we submit and say, your will be done. Your will, Yah, Yah's will be done. On earth as it is in the Shamayim, in the heavens, we have got to live like we're already there. And that is hard to do, especially when you're teaching it to others who are so far from that reality. So I pray, yeah, that that reality opens up, that more people will find us reaching out. They'll find us trying to talk to them about transformation, that they will understand that the time is running out, but the last trumpet is sounding. And as we started the broadcast with the last trumpet, let us go from the last trumpet right now into some news stories that I'm going to play. After this, I'm going to get away from the camera and just let you listen to some powerful things that are going on with Israel from Christian Broadcast Network. And I appreciate the people at CBN and what they've put together. They really got probably one of the best news programs, especially the things going on with Jerusalem, of anybody. So I really appreciate those guys. And we're going to play some of that. We're going to play, of course, one of the stronger voices of a Jewish voice in news, which is Mark Levin. I think it's 13 minutes with him. A couple other short clips. You're going to really love it. So stick around after this song, and I think you're going to really enjoy Hebrews News here today on Love Live, Ruach Remnant Reality Radio. I'm Rev Rock, and I'm a Yahweh for Yahweh, and I am so grateful that you joined us today. Hallelujah. Thank you, Yah. Thank you, Yah. We're in the end times.
Killing of innocent people, hate and persecutions, earthquakes, fire and floods, love growing cold, but we have something to hold firmly inside our hearts. Faith and hope that soon this will pass, and only his name, Yeshua, will last. Time is passing by, and soon we will fly. We'll see his coming through the sky.
In this edition of Jerusalem Dateline, an explosive ruling from the International Criminal Court calling for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. And new evidence emerges of collaboration between UNRWA and Palestinian terror groups going back years. Plus, an ancient seed germinates, giving a living expression to what may produce the balm of Gilead. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his former defense minister, and Hamas officials. The warrants turn Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant into internationally wanted suspects. Here's the latest.
The warrants accuse Netanyahu and Gallant of war crimes and crimes against humanity over the war in Gaza, and Hamas for the October 7th attacks that triggered Israel's offensive. The ICC decision would put Netanyahu and Gallant at risk of arrest if they traveled to certain countries. Back in May, when the ICC threatened arrest warrants, Netanyahu called it a moral outrage of historic proportions. The warrants come as Israel fights wars on its southern border with Hamas and Hezbollah in Lebanon. On Wednesday, U.S. negotiator Amos Hochstein concluded talks with Lebanon's Speaker of the Parliament.
If we made progress, I would go to Israel and make those additional discussions there based on the conversations here and see what we can do.
A major sticking point is Hezbollah's demand that Israel can't respond to violations by the terror group.
It is not allowed for Israel to violate and kill and enter whenever it wants.
Israel's new foreign minister says they must have that right.
We will need to keep the freedom of to act if there will be violations.
Sa'ar says Israel must be able to keep Hezbollah from ever again becoming a huge threat.
We will have to enforce that they won't be able to build again their force in Lebanon. They won't be able to bring again ammunition, missiles.
While Hochstein would not discuss details of the agreement, Middle East analyst Lee Smith tells CBN News it would underwrite the Lebanese army that's been infiltrated by Hezbollah.
We're talking about an additional $400 million for the Lebanese armed forces, in addition to the hundreds of millions that we have now decided to give them yearly. What we're doing is we're paying a Hezbollah asset.
Smith says the deal favors Hezbollah.
It not only protects an Iranian proxy, the chief Iranian proxy, Hezbollah, what it also does is it also it stiffs the American taxpayer. We call it funding for Lebanon. It's not funding for Lebanon. It's funding for Hezbollah.
At the UN Wednesday, the U.S. vetoed a Security Council resolution demanding an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
We made clear throughout negotiations we could not support an unconditional ceasefire that failed to release the hostages.
Israel points out Hamas can easily end the war.
If Hamas were to release the hostages and surrender their weapons, not one more shot would need to be fired.
In the U.S. Senate, an effort by progressives to end sales of offensive weapons to Israel went down to a solid defeat. Opponents said it would send the wrong signal.
This signal will be seen by the enemies of Israel and the enemies of peace as if they just stick with it, they will win.
Prime Minister Netanyahu swiftly defended Israel's actions in Gaza.
No war is more just than the war that Israel has been waging in Gaza after Hamas attacked us unprovoked.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog wrote the decision has turned universal justice into a universal laughingstock. The ICC charges Netanyahu and Gallant are guilty of the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare and the crimes against humanity of murder, persecution, and other inhumane acts.
We are accused of deliberately harming civilians, while we are doing everything to prevent harm to civilians. We are accused of starving a population, while we are bringing hundreds of thousands of tons of food to feed the population.
The ICC's charges came amid evidence of another international organization's bias against Israel. A new report from the group UN Watch said a former United Nations Relief and Works Agency Commissioner General held a secret meeting in 2017 with terrorist groups including Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. There, the UNRWA chief reportedly told them, "We are one, and no one can separate us." As for the ICC warrants, they mean Netanyahu or Gallant could be arrested if they go to certain countries accepting the court's authority. Nations such as Ireland and the Netherlands agreed right away to do it if given the chance.
And to those countries, Netanyahu won't be able to travel, and that's a very, very big thing.
Netanyahu's hoping for a tough backlash against the court.
This decision will have severe consequences for the ICC and those who cooperate with its decision.
President-elect Trump's soon-to-be National Security Advisor, Congressman Mike Waltz, promises you can expect a strong response to the anti-Semitic bias of the ICC and UN come January. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCaul and Republican Senator Lindsey Graham want Senate Leader Chuck Schumer to bring up a bill for a vote that the House has already passed. The measure, called the Illegitimate Court Counteraction Act, Senate Bill 224, would impose sanctions on ICC employees or associates who aid this effort to prosecute Israeli leaders. Graham tweeted, "The court is a dangerous joke. It's now time for the Senate to act and sanction this irresponsible body." Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, IDF reservist Doron Kadar reports from the front in Lebanon.
With the war in Gaza winding down, the majority of Israel's defensive resources have gone into Lebanon. A friend of ours, Sergeant Major Doron Kadar, has been there for months and stopped by our studio this week. Here's our conversation. Doron Kadar, great to be with you here in the studio. We've talked to you over this course of this war. You just came out of Lebanon. Can you describe what it's like inside there with boots on the ground?
Well, Lebanon is much more trickier than Gaza, that much I can tell you. The enemy there is way more advanced in their training, in their weaponry. They are very crafty, just like the Hamas in Gaza. They play dirty, they use the terrain, their home turf, to their advantage. They use similar tactics of underground tunnel systems that are completely under whole villages in southern Lebanon that essentially make the battle space, again, very tricky as a warfighter, because you don't have a bunker or a military installation that you're going after. You're actually going through villages and pastoral nature reserves, and so it's slow, methodical, and at the same time very successful. We have gotten a lot of success in finding the weapons caches, the rocket launching systems, which are in houses. A lot of them are just out of a home, where the home just opens up, the roof retracts, and out of a home you have rockets flying into Israel, and that's how they essentially get away with firing from civilian areas that aren't identifiable very easily.
They've also been talking about a lot of Russian weapons in southern Lebanon. Is that what you saw as well?
Plenty. That's exactly it. Russian weapons, better weapons than they had in Gaza, nicer, more well kept, newer AKs and machine guns, etc. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's exactly it. They're using some of the most advanced Russian weaponry in this warfare against us. And of course, that leads to the question, of course, how did they get their hands on that?
Yeah. You've been there on the ground. Do you see an end goal? Do you see the fact that you can take over up to the Litani River?
100%. I think we are committed, at least the soldiers are. The soldiers are committed, the generals are committed, many of which have advised the government, the defense administration, that we need to get to the Litani so that we, and for the viewers to understand what that means, the Litani is a geographical border between Lebanon and Israel. It helps give us, through the terrain, it helps give us a defensible border, whereas for right now, which I've spent many years, since 2006 up until, let's say, 2015-ish, on the Lebanese border, patrolling it, and many of the times you find yourself in a disadvantage where the enemy can basically strike you, which is what led to the Second Lebanon War, when our soldiers were vulnerable and got attacked and got kidnapped and so on.
So if you get to the Litani, that's a more defensible border for Israel.
In contrast to what we're used to, 100%. Yeah. It is a game changer.
Despite the negotiations efforts in Lebanon this week by U.S. mediator Amos Hochstein, peace and security along the northern border seem far off. Middle East analyst Lee Smith explains some of the factors that make it so. Lee Smith, great to be with you. Tell us, what's your feelings about the talk right now of a ceasefire with Lebanon between Hezbollah and Israel?
Well, thank you, Chris, and great to see you and great to be with you. Look, I think it's up to obviously the government of Israel to make its decisions about its security. This is not good for the United States, though.
When you talk about the Lebanese army, are they corrupted in some way with Hezbollah influence, and are they an honest broker in this scenario?
No, not at all. And it's perverse to hear American officials talk about this as though the Lebanese armed forces operates on its own. It's entirely run by Hezbollah, as are Lebanon's internal security forces. And again, the United States taxpayer is on the hook for paying for assets for Iranian proxies. So right now, American policymakers need to get a little more serious about what's happening in Lebanon. And right now, the idea that the Lebanese armed forces and UNIFIL are capable of going to the south and preventing Hezbollah from causing any more mayhem, not just in the north of Israel. And unfortunately, we have to recognize some unpleasant facts about the Lebanese political system, and that is lots of people, not just Hezbollah, not just the Shia community, are profiting from Hezbollah's control, including large parts of the Christian community as well, who are allied with Hezbollah. So we have to deal with that unpleasant fact. Again, as a fighting force, it's much depleted, but as a political force inside of Lebanon, nothing has changed.
Well, do you see any hope of Lebanon being free from Hezbollah and its sponsor, Iran?
Well, the question is how much Lebanon wants to be free, right? Again, it's very sad and unfortunate. But I think that both for us as Americans and for the Israelis, we have to ask our own questions about our own national interest. We have to keep in mind there are some Christian groups and some Muslim groups who are aligned with American interests, and there are others who are not. And as Americans, as part of our great American nation, we have a whole bunch of people who are living here, and we should not see the world, especially not our national interest, in terms of sectarian interest. We have national interests that advance all Americans, not just particular groups, neither Muslims nor Christians nor Jews.
Well, Lee Smith, appreciate your perspective and analysis on very, very important subject right now here in the Middle East.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Still ahead, turning the page, looking at a possible replacement for the UN Relief and Works Agency.
Since October 7th, the world has come to see UNRWA in a new light, with its direct collaboration with terror groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad. It raises the question, if UNRWA were to be dismantled entirely, who would do the work? The site at this bomb shelter has been called a massacre within a massacre. That day on October 7th, Hamas terrorists murdered 16 Israelis hiding in this bomb shelter after fleeing the Nova Music Festival. They also kidnapped several, including Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Poland. In addition to being with Hamas, the man leading that part of the massacre had another job.
Muhammad Abu Itiwi was a Nukhba commander in the El Burej battalion of Hamas's Central Camps Brigade. He has also been employed by UNRWA since July 2022.
You have employees of UNRWA who were leading the massacre.
A report from Amichai Chikali, Minister of Diaspora Affairs and Immigration, documents those employees who took part in the October 7th massacre. He tells CBN News Hamas's infiltration of the agency has been widespread.
The entire system, because Hamas is in power, so if you want to be an UNRWA employee with a very nice salary, you must be related to Hamas. So UNRWA employees in Gaza were mainly all Hamas militants, all Hamas civil organizations personnel, all the families of Hamas militant and members. If you're not connected to Hamas directly or indirectly, you cannot work in UNRWA in Gaza.
Evidence of this relationship is why the Knesset recently overwhelmingly passed a law that Israel divorce itself from UNRWA.
You have to understand again the spirit of the bill. We have nothing against international community, against foreigners, against the idea of humanitarian aid. This is what Israel is providing. It's about the fact that UNRWA participated in the massacre of the 7th of October.
After the vote, UNRWA claimed the law would be disastrous.
Today, millions of Palestinian refugees fear that the public services on which their lives depend will soon disappear. They fear that their children will be deprived of education, that illnesses will go untreated, and that social support will stop. 17,000 UNRWA personnel in the occupied Palestinian territory fear that they will lose their employment. The entire population of Gaza fears that their only remaining lifeline will be cut.
Legislation co-author Boaz Bismuth disputes those claims.
There will not be a vacuum. It's not because, they were helping yesterday, someone else cannot do the job tomorrow. The job will be done. Because I will ask you the same thing in Gaza. You can tell me, Hamas is reigning in Gaza. You kick them away, so all control, someone else. It's as easy as that. And it will be found. Other people can do it, and will do it beautifully without being terrorists.
Chickalee's report cites how UNRWA has perpetuated Palestinian refugees for generations.
The fact that we have an entity solely for Palestinian refugees that can inherit this status to their kids, grandchildren, and grandgrandchildren, creating more and more refugees every year. And then you have the rest of the world, UNHCR, a refugees entity that is for any other refugees in Africa or Asia or Haiti, it doesn't matter.
His report contrasts UNRWA and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR. Overseeing 5.9 million refugees, UNRWA employed 30,000 workers in 2023. That same year, UNHCR employed 18,000 while overseeing 59 million refugees worldwide. Chickalee says the difference goes even deeper.
Because the UNHCR is not an ideological entity related with the war against the state of Israel. And UNRWA is part of a war. It's a war. It's a war machine. It was designated to train the Palestinian younger generation for jihad. That is the reality. And also when you go physically and you go and you see in schools of UNRWA, in so many cases, beneath the schools you have tunnels. Within the schools you have ammunition and missiles and weapons.
It's why many in Israel want UNRWA abolished and support UNHCR to take its place. But in a statement, UNHCR tells CBN News, as we with other UN agencies have previously warned, UNRWA is the only entity with the capacity to deliver the scale and breadth of assistance that 2.2 million people in Gaza and millions of other Palestinians in the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan need. As the UN Secretary General has stated, there is no alternative to UNRWA. Yet critics cite that UNRWA's most lasting and infamous legacy is its education system. Many principals of UNRWA schools in Gaza were also Hamas members. Chickalee says it takes a village to raise a terrorist and that UNRWA helped teach a genocidal ideology.
This is the Palestinian ideology. This is UNRWA ideology. And by the way, it's also very, very important to understand the jihadist ideology, to train the kids to hate, anti-Semitism, to teach them that the war against the Jews and killing the Jews, that is the most important thing on earth. And this is also a part of what we saw on October 7th.
Under the Biden administration in 2023, the U.S. became UNRWA's largest donor. In Donald Trump's first administration, he ended the agency's funding. Most here hope when he takes office in January that he acts quickly to do so again.
Up next, a tree grows from an ancient seed. Could it produce what's known in the Bible as the balm of Gilead?
A 1,000-year-old seed germinated in recent years could be the producer of the biblical balm of Gilead, known for its healing qualities. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl went to the desert for a closer look at the tree and to meet those caring for it.
Deep in the Negev desert, experts growing the tree see it as a miracle because they thought it had disappeared from Israel a long time ago.
When they planted the 1,000-year-old seed 14 years ago, they had no idea what it would become. Now, this 9-foot tree could be calling to us from the times of the Bible.
This is a miracle. It's a resurrection.
Dr. Sarah Salone of the Natural Medicine Research Center leads the Sheba Project. A pediatrician by profession, she became interested in traditional uses for plants for food, medicine, spices, and dyes. Salone and Dr. Elaine Soloway, head of the Center for Sustainable Agriculture, started the Middle East Medicinal Plant Project here on Kibbutz Keturah.
I got very interested not only in the plants that grow here now, but the plants that grew here a long time ago, especially plants that are mentioned in the Bible.
That led Salone to begin a search that would ultimately lead to this tree they've nicknamed Sheba.
It's a tree that was grown from an ancient seed, a 1,000-year-old seed that was found in the Judean desert about 40 years ago by Professor Joseph Patrick, professor of archaeology at the Hebrew University, when he was excavating caves about 5 kilometers west of Jericho.
After years of in-depth scientific and biblical research and consultations with experts around the world, they believe this tree is prominent in the Bible.
In the book of Genesis, which dates to about, at least the story of Jacob and his sons, to about 1,800 BCE, we find reference to something called tsori, and it's a resin from a tree or a bush.
Salone says tsori, translated as balm, is often mentioned in connection with something of value here.
Something of the land, the land of Israel, and something connected with healing, especially when it's talked about by Jeremiah and later by Ezekiel.
Salone gave the seed to Soloway so she could take the next steps in growing it.
An odd seed. I had never seen a seed like it before. Someone said to me, it's an olive. So I said, no, that's not an olive. And someone else said, it's an apricot. So I said, no, it's not an apricot. So I planted it.
Soloway carefully watered it and treated it as she does with other ancient projects.
Much to my astonishment, up came this funny little shoot with a hat on it.
And when the little green shoot emerged, we didn't know what that was either. So I sent pictures all the way around the world, and one of the botanists who I sent it to wrote back and said, "You've grown a Commiphora species."
Commiphora is Latin for a plant family known as a giver of resin, a sticky substance that can be used to make medicine.
And it's part of the family of trees, bushes, in which myrrh and frankincense belong. Some of the most famous incense trees in history belong to this family, but not all members of it are fragrant.
Leading experts, however, had no knowledge of this specific one.
There didn't seem to be anything that was quite like this tree. So eventually, when we started to test its resin, and I found out that there was something very strange about it.
The tree is now 14 years old, and Soloway says they still don't know much about it other than she believes it's special.
It could be an extinct tree, it could be the tsori, and we're going to plant it. I feel that it has come back to us from a long time.
Salone and Soloway have worked together for almost 20 years. They began with planting 2,000-year-old date palm seeds. CBN News met Soloway in 2011 when the first one, Methuselah, was very young. It, along with other Judean date palms, are growing well, and this is Methuselah today. Referring to their new tree, the possible producer of the balm of Gilead, they believe there's a positive message for today.
That there is healing in the world. We just have to find it.
It's a dark time. And in this dark time, it's a kind of resurrection in a way. It's something that hasn't been seen for thousands of years. I think to me it represents light and hope.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Kibbutz Keturah, Israel.
What a great story about an ancient seed giving a modern window into the Bible times. Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media, and you can also access CBN content through our CBN News and other CBN apps. And don't forget to sign up for our email blasts so you can continue to receive information on breaking news. And please keep praying for Israel, for the peace of Jerusalem, for the IDF soldiers and all those caught in harm's way, and for the hostages in Gaza to come home. I'm Chris Mitchell. For all of us here at the Jerusalem Bureau, we'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.
From the valleys to the mountains, I'm on a highway to heaven. There's only one way, and I'm not turning. I've got my wings spread wide and my arms open. Oh, say, can you see? Raise that flag for liberty. Wave it high, let it fly. Touch the sun, catch the breeze. Oh, say, can you see? There's no place I'd rather be than here with you, is and free. Who could stand against me? Freedom, I'm riding all the way home. Freedom, I can feel the wind in my soul. Freedom, it's a fire all up in my bones. Freedom, oh, freedom is my anthem. Freedom, I'm riding all the way home. Freedom, I can feel the wind in my soul. Freedom, it's a fire all up in my bones. Freedom, oh, freedom is my anthem. Rally the rebels till the earth shakes. Gonna hit the ground hard till every chain breaks. There's only one blood and only one grace that can make a dead man walk right out of the grave. Oh, say, can you see? Raise that flag for liberty. Wave it high, let it fly. Touch the sun, catch the breeze. Oh, say, can you see? There's no place I'd rather be than here with you, is and free. Who could stand against me? Freedom, I'm riding all the way home. Freedom, I can feel the wind in my soul. Freedom, it's a fire all up in my bones. Freedom, oh, freedom is my anthem. Freedom, I'm riding all the way home. Freedom, I can feel the wind in my soul. Freedom, it's a fire all up in my bones. Freedom, oh, freedom is my anthem. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Freedom, I'm riding all the way home. Freedom, I can feel the wind in my soul. Freedom, there's a fire all up in my bones. Freedom, oh, freedom is my anthem. Freedom, I'm riding all the way home. Freedom, I can feel the wind in my soul. Freedom, it's a fire all up in my bones. Freedom, oh, freedom is my anthem.
Tonight, Trump's new pick for Attorney General takes center stage, while the pressure ramps up on his nominee for Defense Secretary. What's next for the Trump transition team? Plus, fighting on all fronts. Israel battles war crime allegations and terrorists in Lebanon and Gaza. And a Virginia measure offering abortion up until birth. Details on a new controversial amendment that could change the Commonwealth's constitution. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. President-elect Donald Trump is forging ahead with his new pick for Attorney General. Good evening in Washington. I'm Tara Mergener. Well, today there is a new nominee under consideration. Trump officially naming Pam Bondi to lead the Justice Department. She replaces Matt Gaetz, who withdrew his bid for Attorney General after allegations of misconduct and drug use. Gaetz also announced he will not return to Congress next year. He resigned from the White House, or from the House rather, after Trump's nomination. The president-elect's new pick, Bondi, is a longtime prosecutor serving as Florida's Attorney General. She later registered as foreign agent and lobbyist. Bondi also served on Trump's legal team during his first impeachment trial.
She's very deceptive. You look and you say, I wonder, is she tough? Oh, she's tough. She's scary tough, but she's fair, right?
Meanwhile, Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for defense secretary, has an uphill battle tonight. He's facing sexual assault allegations from 2017. Hegseth denies all accusations of wrongdoing, and no charges were filed in that case. Still, some senators have expressed hesitation over backing him. Senior CBN White House correspondent Kelly Wright has been tracking the story all day. He joins us now from the White House. Kelly, with Gaetz out, is Pete Hegseth under even more pressure now, and how does this affect his chances of getting confirmed?
Well, Tara, good evening to you. He certainly faces a steeper uphill climb, if you will, in order to make it to that nomination of becoming confirmed as the next defense secretary, notwithstanding his legal woes as well as what took place, and there's been no charge for that. He's still having a problem with credibility, even though Vice President-elect J.D. Vance has been walking with him, talking to senators about it. As you've mentioned, senators are reluctant to move him forward. And because of that, there are already reports that President-elect Trump is already looking at a short-term list of who might be a replacement.
And why did President-elect Trump choose Pam Bondi to be his new nominee for Attorney General?
Well, you heard it very clearly in what he stated there about her being super strong. She might be deceptive, but she's a strong attorney. She actually stood by his side during that first impeachment, actually legally representing him. She has served as the Florida Attorney General. She brings a lot of experience and a lot of support that's known publicly for the president-elect. Now that, however, will rankle some Democrats in the Senate confirmation process because she's also an election denier. That notwithstanding, the Republican majority in that Senate will likely go ahead and put her through to become President-elect Trump's Attorney General.
And Kelly, we know Gaetz will not return to the House next year, but will he consider returning to Congress at some other time?
It's a very good question. President-elect Trump believes that Mr. Gaetz has a strong, bright future ahead of him. Mr. Gaetz himself, however, says that he's looking for a different kind of perch from which to support the president-elect, that he wanted to step out of the way so he wouldn't be a distraction to the president-elect moving forward with his administration. That notwithstanding, Mr. Gaetz has also stated that he's not sure what he will do, but he does not want to serve in government. He believes that the past 8 years serving in Congress has been enough. There is speculation, however, that he could come back in 2026 to actually try to run for U.S. Senate. Remains to be seen.
Interesting. We also understand that Biden and Trump's chiefs of staff met in Washington. What was that meeting about?
So that's all about making sure that the transition of power moves smoothly. Both of them coming together to talk about how that's done and also advising each other on how to handle their bosses, their chiefs. Susie Wiles will have to stand by the president-elect and help him with good news and bad news to help steer the course for the president-elect of the United States moving forward with his new administration. They still have to get to that matter of, though, signing those memorandums of understanding in order to make sure that the smooth transition of power between these two administrations, the outgoing and the incoming, takes place. So while it's cold and rainy here, there's a lot of work going on.
It sure seems that way. Lots of moving parts, Kelly. CBN News senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, as the transition process continues, we already have a picture of who could shape health policy under a second Trump administration. The president-elect has chosen Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, and he's planning to, quote, make America healthy again. The department has a wide reach. It provides health insurance for nearly half the country, oversees vaccine and drug research, regulates medicine, and it inspects food as well. So for more on this, we want to bring in Dr. Jerome Adams, the former Surgeon General under the previous Trump administration and author of the book Crisis and Chaos, Lessons Learned from the Front Lines of the War Against COVID-19. Dr. Adams, thank you so much for being with us. First, I am curious, with the perspective that you have, what do you make of the president-elect's pick of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Services?
Well, we know President Trump ran on being a disruptor, and this is certainly a disruptive pick. I'll give you first the bad and then the good. The bad is that we're going into cold and flu season, and we're seeing a extremely low uptake of flu vaccines and of COVID boosters. The CDC just put out a report. H5N1, bird flu, is heating up, and I've been very vocal about this on social media. It very well could turn into our next pandemic. And last year, measles cases increased 20% globally. Over 100,000 people, most of them children under 5, died from measles. So it's a little bit concerning to have someone with a history of the vaccine rhetoric that RFK has and who's committed to attacking the CDC in charge at this time. That's the bad. The good is that he has lived experience with substance misuse. And so people who know me know that I've been very vocal about how we need to lower stigma because of my family's challenges with substance misuse, particularly my brother. I focus on health and wellness, and prevention is critical. We spend more money than any other nation on this planet on healthcare, and we get terrible results because we do too much diagnosis and treatment and not enough prevention up front.
Yeah, prevention
I think
is key.
RFK focusing on nutritional content and safety of our food supply also could be critical. And the real, I think, question is going to be: is he going to lean more towards doing these good things, or is he going to focus more on, again, some of the vaccine rhetoric that he's talked about in the past?
You know, Kennedy and Trump have been talking a lot about a plan they say is all about making America healthy again. What do you see as the current biggest threats to the health of Americans that are the things the government can actually impact?
Well, when you look at Dr. Oz in charge of CMS, potentially, he was nominated, working along with RFK, they can shift our healthcare reimbursement again from diagnosing and treating disease to really rewarding healthcare institutions and providers for prevention and wellness. RFK is well known for his environmental health work. So we can work on taking PFAS and microplastics out of our water supply. That's something people have long wanted us to address. And again, I really hope they focus on the opioid epidemic and substance misuse. Those would all be good things that the government could lean into.
Right. And Trump has also said he plans to let RFK Jr. go wild on health. What does that mean?
Well, again, the proof is in the pudding. We don't know yet what that means. I'm hopeful. What I would say to the viewers out there is things are never as bad as you fear they're going to be, and they're never as good as you hope they're going to be. And so I'm committed to working with the new administration and trying to help them focus on the things that I think will improve health while not pulling the rug from underneath from us in terms of vaccine confidence and infectious diseases.
Absolutely. So much to think about in the days ahead, and what's more important than our health. Dr. Jerome Adams, thank you so much for sharing your great insight. We really appreciate you.
Thanks. Talk to your doctor about your flu and COVID shots this season.
Thank you so much. All right, now to the Middle East. Mixed reactions after the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense minister. The warrant accuses the leaders of committing war crimes in Gaza and requires any of the ICC's 120 member states to arrest them if they step foot on their soil. The Netherlands explicitly says they would enforce the warrants. Hungary rejects them. Germany says it will examine its response. Netanyahu blasted the court's decision.
This is an anti-Semitic step that has one goal: to deter me, to deter us from exercising our natural right to defend ourselves against enemies who are rising up against us to destroy us.
Meanwhile, Israel continues to carry out strikes against Hezbollah in Beirut and Hamas in Gaza. NATO will hold emergency talks with Ukraine on Tuesday after Russia launches a hypersonic ballistic missile at a military facility. Zelensky accuses Moscow of escalating the war, and Ukraine's parliament canceled a session Friday due to the security threat. President Vladimir Putin says Thursday's attack was in retaliation for Kiev's use of American and British long-range missiles on Russian territory. All right, coming up, the abortion battle that could change Virginia's constitution when Faith Nation returns. An abortion battle is underway in Virginia. Democrats in the state legislature are advancing a measure to enshrine abortion into Virginia's constitution. Democrats say the amendment aligns with current state law by permitting abortions through the first 2 trimesters and only allowing third trimester abortions to save the life or health of the mother. However, Republicans say the amendment goes beyond state law by reducing the number of doctors required to sign off on a third trimester abortion. There are still several more hurdles for the amendment to clear over the next 2 years before any changes to the Constitution can be made. All right, for more on this, we turn to Delegate Todd Gilbert. He is the Republican leader in the Virginia House of Delegates. Delegate Gilbert, Republicans say this measure goes further than Virginia's current law on abortion. How so?
Well, I mean, most notably, it eliminates completely the 3-doctor requirement. We have a requirement that 3 doctors sign off on it. It reduces it to 1. In theory, that could be the abortion doctor who could make the decision, and not just about the health of the mother. It clearly says the mental health of the mother. So this has no guardrails whatsoever for the unborn. It leans completely into the most extreme version that any state is doing on this topic. It goes well beyond Roe versus Wade. You know, a lot of folks, I think, especially pro-life advocates, don't realize that even Roe had limits, and it protected, or it recognized the state's interest in protecting a viable child once that child could be safely brought into the world. And this very extreme measure goes well beyond that and would not provide those protections, even that Roe v. Wade provided.
And you are also raising concerns about the amendment process, suggesting the committee appears to be rushing this issue and should have to wait until next year to consider an amendment change. Why is that?
Sure. Look, regardless of where you fall on this issue, I mean, everyone recognizes that this is one of the most litigated topics in all of American jurisprudence. And it is literally a life and death issue. And so when we were given this new version of this constitutional amendment, it was literally laid on our desk, and we were told by the committee chairman that we had 5 minutes, all of 5 minutes, to look at a life and death issue, one of the most hotly litigated issues in American law, and we were given 5 minutes to look at it before the debate began. And these things happen in committee where even, you know, again, regardless of where you land on this, you have to get the words right if your intentions truly are to have limits. It was clear from the proceedings that we had in committee, our very last chance to ever work on this before it comes to a vote on the House floor. It was clear to us that they did not want to work on it, and they were going to push it through at all costs. And that was most probably because it doesn't have any of the limits that they're going to claim that it does.
Mm-hmm. And President Trump also says he would veto a federal abortion ban, instead leaving the issue to the states. Is this a mistake in your eyes, and what does that mean for pro-life lawmakers?
Not really. I mean, if you remember, pro-life advocates worked for decades to try to return this issue to the states. And so when Roe was overturned by the Supreme Court, that is exactly what happened. And so now to put that back in the hopes that a president who will be there temporarily will do something that everyone likes, I think puts in jeopardy the very foundation of what was achieved in returning this issue back to the states. So, you know, again, this is what is being proposed in Virginia is extreme. It is well beyond anything Roe v. Wade contemplated. To your previous question, it's going to eliminate not just the 3-doctor rule, but it's going to eliminate things like parental notification, which may even be more scary than the other things that it does. So having children being able to be subjected to this procedure without their parents' involvement, I think speaks loud and clear to the intentions of Democrats, at least in Virginia.
Gotcha. Delegate Todd Gilbert, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate the insight this afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, up next, the season of charity is upon us, but experts say many evangelicals are choosing not to give. A look at what's behind the trend right after this. And welcome back. Nearly 80 million Americans are getting ready to hit the road for Thanksgiving. That is 2 million more than last year. And if you're driving, here's some good news. Gas prices are expected to drop below $3 a gallon in many places. Experts say the busiest days for travel next week are Tuesday and Wednesday. But if you want to avoid the crowds, go ahead and leave on Thanksgiving morning. Well, tis the season for giving, right? But it seems many Christians are not feeling quite as charitable these days. A new study reveals a significant decline in generosity among evangelicals. Giving to churches has dropped. 61% of evangelicals gave to a church over the past year. On average, donations of the faithful to churches have also decreased by about $500, and that's not all. Fewer evangelicals are also giving to ministries and charities outside their church. I had a chance to chat with Mark Drystadt, the president of Infinity Concepts, this week about this survey to ask what is going on. So, Mark, you have actually done a study. You've got some numbers here about evangelical giving. And wow, it's way down. It's 13% down from 2021. Mm-hmm. And it's also down giving to nonprofit ministries outside of the church. What is going on with evangelicals and donations at this point?
Well, certainly we're seeing a complete drop in giving since our last survey in 2021 to this one that we conducted. There was a significant drop, 13%, as you mentioned, for church giving, but overall 17% drop in giving. So the giving is dropping across the board, churches and charities alike, where the average family is giving, something like 2.8% of their income. Nevertheless, not even think about the idea of a tithe. That's not even anywhere near reality. Less than 10% of people who consider themselves evangelicals are actually really tithers. And so we're facing a really interesting time for the church and for nonprofit ministries as those funds seem to be shrinking because there are fewer people who are giving less. I think it's partly because of the secularization of the church. I think it's also because of the economic challenges that we're facing in our culture and our nation right now.
So what impact does this have? Obviously, if folks are not giving as much to the church can do less with some of its ministries. What is the impact in the big picture?
Yeah, in fact, the church giving is essentially down 25% statistically from where it was in 2021. So churches have to consider, what are we going to do? Are we going to scale back programs? Are we going to change the methodology in which we gather funding for the church? There's a lot of questions. I have more questions than I have answers there. We are talking about perhaps looking at younger givers in a different way, finding a different way to engage around social causes that still have spiritual impact, looking for diverse ways to engage people in the community, in the work that the church is doing, in addition to the traditional passing of the offering plate, as it will.
Right. Now, I have to ask, over the last, few years, a lot of folks are really feeling the strain of higher inflation, higher grocery prices, higher prices at the gas pumps. How much of this lack of evangelical giving is part of folks just feeling not as rich, maybe?
Well, I think that certainly has a part to play with it. But we also saw, even among the higher income families, the same decline has been happening.
We just finished an election.
That could change everything.
Why is that? Why would a new president, Donald Trump in this case, make a difference to how much money evangelicals are willing to give again?
Evangelicals have been struggling with being judged on so many levels, against the woke culture. And there really has been, I think, a cultural onslaught against the body of Christ and against Christian principles. So I think, number one, I think in the new administration, we have the opportunity, optimistically, that we're going to find new freedom to be who we are in Christ and express our faith in more open and overt ways. And I think, secondly, I think the style of administration that we're going to see in the coming days is much more economically favorable to the free market. And when there's free market, everyone tends to prosper. And when people tend to prosper, they tend to be more generous. So we're hopeful that when we go and conduct this survey a year or two from now, we're going to see that this trend certainly has reversed and it has been a dip and not an ongoing trend.
Well, let's hope so, because money is needed so the churches can do the very important work that they do. Really interesting study, Mark. Thank you for joining us. We'll keep an eye on this for sure.
You bet. Thank you so much, Tara.
Finally, tonight, it is beginning to look a lot like Christmas in the nation's capital, even though it's raining today. The 2024 U.S. Capitol Christmas tree has arrived here in Washington, D.C., marking the beginning of the holiday season with an annual tradition. This year's tree came from Tongass National Forest in Alaska, traveling over 700 miles by sea and nearly 4,000 miles by land. The 80-foot-tall tree was affectionately named Spruce Wayne, following a vote on social media by fans following the tree's journey. Spruce will be decorated with handcrafted ornaments and lights before ceremonial lighting scheduled for December 3rd, and that promises to be beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us today, and that's going to do it for Faith Nation. You have a great weekend, and we will see you back here on Monday.
Darkness upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The Spirit of God there is Ruach Elohim. He's the blast of God, He's the breath of God, He's the wind of God. The Lord is that Spirit. He is God, Ruach Elohim, and we welcome Him here. Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, feel this place. Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, Spirit of the Lord, Spirit of the Lord, come and fill this temple, fill this place. When we say this place, it's not just the physical atmosphere, this temple. Ruach Elohim, Ruach Elohim, blast wind.
Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday. Now, I had a choice to make here, America. Could I spend the show on Jussie Smollett? Does anybody really give a damn about Jussie Smollett? We know what the Illinois Supreme Court did. Over and over and over again, Jussie Smollett. I don't care about Jussie Smollett. Do you really? Is that what you want us to spend our Saturday evening together doing? I have a better idea. An exciting, fantastic, spellbinding subject. Recess appointments. Now, the only person on the face of the earth who can make this intriguing and interesting is me. Let's be honest. But it's crucially important. If you voted for Donald Trump, you want Donald Trump to succeed, you care about limited government, you care about getting the bureaucracy under control, this is very important, and I'll make it very interesting. And it has nothing to do with Matt Gaetz per se, or any nominee per se. It has to do with the principle, and the Constitution, and the issue. When you have a newly elected president, and he seeks to select individuals to fill these major positions, he only has a handful of them. There's 2.5 million bureaucrats. We have what is really an unconstitutional massive bureaucracy, a fourth branch of government that's not even in the Constitution. We understood there needed to be some bureaucracy, right? Some delegation of authority. But the delegation of lawmaking to a bureaucracy that actually writes 95% of the laws you have to live with, whether you can drive a car that uses a combustion engine, what kind of lawnmower you can use, none of that's done by Congress. All of it's done by bureaucrats. And that lawmaking power is not even in the legislature. It's in the executive branch. So separation of power is being destroyed. Representative government, as John Locke and Montesquieu discussed, two of the great philosophers that your framers of the Constitution listened to and read. What kind of representative government is when we have this massive bureaucracy off on its own doing whatever the hell it wants to do, no matter who's elected? Well, there's one party in America who thinks that's great, because the bureaucracy basically belongs to them. It's the Democrat Party. So when Republican presidents come in, they now have a practice, and that practice is to try and kneecap them, to try and destroy their presidencies before they're even sworn in on Inauguration Day. That is, to prevent them from getting their nominees in the positions of cabinet secretary and sub-cabinet secretary positions in order to run the bureaucracy and advance their policies that they ran on and on which they got elected. The Democrats are happy with that. Some liberal establishment Republicans are happy with that. It's the surest way to destroy an incoming president from doing what he promised to do when he ran for office. It's the surest way to undermine the American people and to usurp the election outcome, particularly in a landslide, is to prevent a president from having the personnel he needs to run the government. Now, there may be controversial nominees. That's fine. There have been in the past and so forth and so on. But we're talking about a party, the Democrat Party, Chuck Schumer. We're talking about some Republicans, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and their ilk, who really don't want Donald Trump to succeed, do they? They kind of like this big, massive bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., pushing around the American people. They haven't done anything to stop it. In fact, they've helped create it. And so the same people who've created this situation, well, damn, they don't want to reform it. And that's the issue, not Jussie Smollett. Jeff Van Dam, some time ago, writing at Northwestern University Law Review as a law student, he pointed out from 1789 until 1961, the Senate rejected only 8 presidential nominees to cabinet positions. Only 8. Through the use of such dilatory measures, though, the Senate has achieved a nearly unfettered ability these days to frustrate typical nominations. And the recess appointment power has likewise evolved to allow the executive the ability to combat such obstruction. So there's a change, really, the appointment clause and the recess appointment clause, both of which are in the Constitution. I see some of our friends commenting and saying, hey, wait a minute, Donald Trump's talking about recess appointments. That's going to destroy our liberty. That's going to destroy separation of powers. My God, what are we going to do about this? The Speaker of the House, he better not go along with this. The Appointments Clause has been utterly changed and abused since 1961, and even before. The Recess Appointments Clause has been used by presidents to push back separation of powers. It's an abuse of the advise and consent provision that enables senators, especially the party opposite, the Democrat Party in this case, and some of these never-Trumper senators who were not up for re-election and didn't face the voters a few weeks ago, to thwart the president and his policies, thereby empowering this massive bureaucracy to function as it chooses, the status quo. And this is why the Democrats will shut down the government before allowing one penny to be cut from the bureaucracy or one employee to be cut from the bureaucracy. It's essentially theirs. They own it. The bureaucracy, in so many respects, when you have a Republican president, when you had Reagan and especially Trump the first time and Trump again, they view their goal as sabotaging the agenda of the incoming president. So we have this massive bureaucracy that the framers never contemplated, which makes 95% of the laws in this country, obliterating the idea of representative government, and, of course, destroying separation of powers. That's the problem, not Donald Trump and the Recess Appointment Clause. Now, I want to remind you why Donald Trump is sensitive to this issue. As Politico wrote back in December 22, 2017, about 100 of President Donald Trump's nominees have been kicked back to the White House. 100. Prolonging an unusually high number of vacancies across his administration and escalating the Senate's long-running nomination wars. So more than any modern president, they decided to thwart Donald Trump's presidency. While the Senate agreed to keep roughly 150 of Trump's picks for consideration next year, carrying them over, it refused to do so in roughly 100 others. According to Majority Leader McConnell's office, that means the White House will have to renominate them if Trump wants them installed. That will trigger a requirement that nominees' paperwork have to be updated. In other words, it's the slow walking, the handicapping of his nominees. So the incoming president, Trump, can't really be an effective president. A gargantuan task for some nominees who've been languishing in the Senate for months, especially if their net worth changed dramatically because of the surging stock market. Any one senator, one, can object to allowing a nominee to be carried over. Is that what the framers intended? I would ask all the phony constitutionalists who were so concerned about this. Though it's likely Democrats are responsible for most of the rejections, Republicans could also have triggered some of them too. President George W. Bush had just 2 picks returned to the White House. Trump had over 100. It definitely violates precedent, said Senator Langford, of sending back so many nominees. That's just a sign of the times, that people are looking for a rule to be able to slow the Senate down even more. That's making a bad situation worse. Now, Ronald Reagan had a problem with this too, because they were trying to do similar things to him. And so his deputy press secretary at the time speaks. He issued this statement in October 1985. I still think this is more interesting than Smollett, don't you? Yeah, I think so. The president is deeply displeased that 70 key appointments touching virtually every area of the executive branch
are being deliberately held up by Senate Democratic leader Robert Byrd. These are assistant secretaries, ambassadors, federal circuit and district judges, members of important agencies, commissions, and boards. Over 5,000 mid-level career military personnel alone are being denied promotions and pay raises. It's the largest backlog of presidential appointments in modern history, only to be checked by Donald Trump. He had the biggest. And so you can see the pattern. The abuse is in the Democrats or senators generally using the advice and consent clause to cripple an incoming Republican president, or even midterm in the case of Reagan. They don't like how things are going, so trying to cripple him during the course of his presidency. He said President Reagan did not evade the Senate's power to confirm. The individuals he's appointed had already been nominated before the recent Senate recess. The Senate just hadn't acted on the nominations. And those appointees were renominated when the Senate returned. So they go through this progress, this arduous progress, renominating them, refiling papers, and Byrd still sat on them. Just as Schumer would still sit on them. So the president's supposed to sit there or flop around like a flounder on the beach and just hope the goodwill of these wonderful senators, they'll come to their senses and they'll do what they're supposed to do, because advice and consent was never intended to be what it's become. Attorney General Edwin Meese, January 5, 2012. He wrote as a former U.S. Attorney General, and as did Tom Gaziano, who co-wrote the piece with him, and a former Office of Legal Counsel lawyer who provided advice to presidents on recess appointment issues. We have defended and will continue to defend the lawful use of the recess appointment power. Although originally conceived by the framers for a time when communicating with and summoning senators back to the Capitol might take weeks, it is still valid in a modern age, but only as long as the Senate is in recess. They were responding to Barack Obama, who, like most leftists, was abusing the so-called recess provision by claiming that the Senate was in recess when it wasn't. So this Donald Trump, we have to worry about him, and the Speaker of the House to go along, and oh my God, this dictatorship is actually coming true. Recess appointments, since George Washington, for 1,000 different reasons, and in modern times having nothing to do with travel, have been used throughout our history, and by every single president except William Henry Harrison, because he died a month after he was sworn in, has been used over 1,000 times. Over 1,000 times. And yet they want you to believe that Donald Trump is a threat. We senators, we have a prerogative. Well, the president has a prerogative too. You're not the only one with the Constitution, senators. President does too. It's called the Recess Appointments Clause. And when we look at this graph that I want to show you, you can look at modern presidents up to Barack Obama. You see Franklin Roosevelt used the clause 89 times. And by the way, he had a Democrat Senate the entire time. Harry Truman 195 times. Dwight Eisenhower 193 times. Now, in the case of Eisenhower, he used the Recess Appointment Clause for 3 Supreme Court justices. 3 Supreme Court justices. Now, he went back and nominated them for full confirmation process, but nonetheless, that's what he did. John Kennedy 53 times, Richard Nixon 41 times, Gerald Ford 12 times. Of course, he was in office about 4 minutes, Ford, but nonetheless. Jimmy Carter 68 times. Ronald Reagan has the record 243 times. 243 times. George H.W. Bush 77 times. William Clinton 139 times. George Bush 171 times. That's a lot. And Barack Obama, who was abusing the idea of what a recess is, he had it 28 times. And so this is nothing new. It's not the end of the world. Donald Trump is looking for ways to carry out his mandate. He's looking for constitutional ways to do it. And so I just want to underscore this point, because the media don't know what they're talking about. Certain commentators who beat their chests about how brilliant they are, they certainly don't know what they're talking about. This is the reality. The advice and consent clause in the Constitution is not being used as intended by the framers of the Constitution. They're being used to try and cripple an incoming president of the opposite party or an incoming president of the same party with whom the establishment of that party disagrees. And remember, again, only 1/3 of the Senate is up at any time, so 2/3 of these senators didn't face the wrath of the voters this last time around. And so a president obviously has the need and the right to populate his administration. If in fact there's a nominee here and there, we get it. But Donald Trump's experience with the Senate is it wasn't a matter of here and there. It was a matter of, oh, we're going to block 100 of your nominees. What? And I can promise you, he's not going to be able to get done what he needs to get done, what he wants to get done, what you want him to get done, if the Senate continues to conduct itself this way. And a reminder, this Senate is responsible for so many of the problems that Donald Trump's trying to fix. So, of course, as I said earlier, they're not going to want to reform themselves. Not in the least. Okay, we'll keep an eye on this. Jussie Smollett? I don't give a damn about Jussie Smollett.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
By the blood of your son, we've been grafted in. Oh, merciful Yah, how awesome is your love. Oh, merciful Yah, your son laid down his life to redeem this broken bride. Oh, the deep gratitude we have for your son, who gathers the weary and broken and shows them all your love. How lovely is the groom who calls for his sons and daughters. Oh yeah, we offer up our lives like sheep on the altar. Oh, merciful Yah, how awesome is your love. Oh, merciful Yah, your son laid down his life to redeem this broken all be dead in sin, not alive in grace. And if not for Yeshua, we would never know the way, the truth, the light. And if not for Yeshua, we would all be dead in sin, not alive in grace. And if not for Yeshua, we would never know the way, the truth, the light. And if not for Yeshua, we would all be dead in sin, not alive in grace. And if not for Yeshua, we would never know the way, the truth, the light. And if not for Yeshua, we would all be dead in sin, not alive in grace. And if not for Yeshua, we would never know the way, the truth, the light. We would never know His sacrifice. Oh, we would never know His sacrifice. Oh, we would never know His sacrifice. Oh, we would never know His life. Merciful Yah, how awesome is your love. Oh, merciful Yah, your Son laid down His life. Your Son laid down His life. Oh, your Son laid down His life to redeem this broken bride. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor does he stand in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the Torah of Yahweh. But his delight is in the Torah of Yahweh, and on his ways he meditates day and night. He meditates day and night. firmly planted by streams of living water, which yield a seed in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and in all he does he prospers. This is to life. It's in the Torah of Yahweh, but it's delight. It's in the Torah of Yahweh, and on his ways he meditates day and night. He meditates day and night. But the wicked are not so. They are like the chaff which the wind blows away. And therefore the wicked shall not rise in the judgment, nor the sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For Yahuwah knows the way of the righteous. For Yahuwah knows the way of the righteous. For Yahuwah knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish.
Wow. I love this young couple. And I got a short little news story to kind of close as a really positive, good news story. And one of the positives is just the testimony of this young couple. I really don't even know their names, but I've been researching and finding out more and more. It's hard to find a lot of information on people unless they have a website with an about us and all of that kind of thing. But their music is wonderful. I really, really have been berachot, or favored, I should say, from Abia in bringing them into the house of worship and the home of shalom and the Love Life Rock Remnant Reality Radio experience. It has definitely added a lot to what we're trying to do. And if you don't understand, and here's the news on it, we're trying to be an alternative to Christian radio. We're trying to be an alternative to mainstream media as much as possible. So, Mark Levin, probably one of the most conservative voices. He's Jewish. He is not on your weeklies. He's on the Patriot Radio during the week. He has a 3-hour everyday program. He's only on weekends on Fox. So Fox has some really ultra conservative people that are, morals and values would definitely align with. They keep the Torah in most of what you hear from what their hearts are doing. Of course, nobody knows who's really keeping the Torah behind closed doors, or, I don't follow people around, every day of the week and figure out whether they are actually living right or not living right. So it's really not my deal, but what their voice is out in the public is important. And I think, the voice that Mark Levin brings forth is an excellent one. He has really phenomenal credentials, in his career, and his messaging is off the chain. Now, I did this 2 CBN Christian Broadcast Network that I did today. I thought were outstanding. I hope that you really enjoyed that. They really, I do love the Jerusalem Dateline. It's a great program. They covered a lot of really cool things in the news about Yerushalayim, or Jerusalem. So, we are a roots of the fruits kind of place here on Love Live. We are definitely all about Yisrael. We love Yisrael. And when we say we love Yisrael, it's not a place, it's a people. Okay. And it's important to understand that it is more about a people than it is about a place. So I personally am, simply jazzed that we were able to bring that forth and, have that out. So the couple that I'm talking about, their name is Left and Right Ministries, and they definitely will capture your heart, I think. If I can find where this other one is. Now I don't see it. There's supposed to be one where they're having a announcement that they make, and I'm not seeing it. Oh, here we go. New updates. This is it. Okay. So this is Left and Right Ministries. They have an update. It's big news. Now I don't see it. Where is it? Oh boy. Not for Yeshua. I'll wait for you. Prepare the way. Anchor. Come on. Where are we here? You can see they got some really outstanding music at Left and Right Ministries, but they did a announcement, and here it is, update video. This is it.
Shalom! Shalom, everyone. So, as you can see, we've got a really big update for you guys, and she happens to be right there. Can you want to tell everybody what this big update is all about?
So we had another baby.
Yeah.
And this might come as a surprise to some of you because when we announced it in our email update, we got some replies from people who were like, "What? I didn't even know you were pregnant." So
we hide it really well.
Yeah, this is baby Ellery Yasha Mitchell. We can't praise Yah enough for both of our beautiful children. They are such gifts from Yah, and we just give him all the praise.
We had a comment on our YouTube video. It's like, you know what this means, right? You need to name your child Eleanor. That's L and R, right? Eleanor. Left and right, L and R. Anyway. And we were like, oh, that's kind of cool. And we thought about it for a bit, but then we're like, man, maybe not.
Well, and I looked up the name meaning of Eleanor, and in Hebrew, it's like my L is light.
Right.
And then just kind of switched that name around a little bit to be L is my light. And that name just...
Ori, right. So
we were both like, wow,
it's beautiful. We love it. And we're like, Ellery, so Elohim is my light. And then Yeshua is salvation. And so if you look at Psalm 27, verse 1, which is where we really got the inspiration for Yeshua, it says, Yahuwah is my light and salvation. And we just changed Yahuwah to Elohim, right? And so Elohim is my light and salvation. That's her name. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, when I look at her, I see the light of Yah and the beauty of Yah and the creation that he's made. She is so precious. And so we're very thankful, very healthy baby. She's very calm. Yeah. So we're very thankful for that. Asaph is transitioning to be more of a bundle of energy. But we're very thankful for our beautiful children, and we wanted to share that update with you guys. But we have many other updates, actually, and we want to just fill you in on what's been going on with Left and Right Ministries. One of the biggest things is that we now have Volume 3 out for purchase and for streaming. So if you have Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all those streaming platforms, you can listen to it there, or you can go buy the CD on leftandrightmusic.com, and you can go to our store tab and get just this CD, or you can get all of our CDs. If you scroll all the way down, there's a button that says click here to order multiple CDs or all CDs, and you can order all of them that way, or select whichever ones you want. You could also order on that same tab our brand new T-shirts. Woohoo! And these T-shirts were provided to us and completely fulfilled by Sanctified Supply Co. And
Jerry and
Lucia are just amazing.
Gems. We love you guys.
They're amazing. I really, really appreciate Jerry and Lucia and their business and what they all the hard work they put into their products. If you haven't checked them out, just go check them out.
And check out their YouTube channel. Go and subscribe to them.
Go give them a quick search and check them out. Sanctified Supply Co. But it was really cool because they ended up supplying these T-shirts right in time for Hebrew Fest, which is really cool. But that's available on our store tab. So if you go to our store tab, you can purchase that. Go check Sanctified Supply Co. out, and you can get Volume 3 right here. So really excited about all that.
And as always, thank you guys so much for your support.
Anything you guys do, whether it be prayer, or purchasing something, or just helping us out, you guys, it's huge to us. So we're just so thankful for all that you guys do. And speaking of our ministry, we definitely had to do something different than we normally do for Sukkot. We usually are there the whole time and usually doing worship most of the nights. But this year it was very different because a little bit before Sukkot we had Ellery. And it was almost 2 weeks before. And so that really changed the game for us. And we were sitting there thinking, how in the world are we going to do Sukkot?
Lyndon had already reserved an amazing band to fill in for us.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about them for a second.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we knew that we would be having the baby either before or during Sukkot. So we knew we wouldn't be able to lead worship every night.
We knew the due date. So we're like, we relatively around that time, there's no way we're going to be able to do Sukkot normally. And so I had been able to get in touch with a really amazing friend of ours, the Albertons, and they ended up coming and leading worship. Their ministry is called Salt of the Earth Ministries. I just 100% encourage all of you to check them out. Salt of the Earth Ministries saltoftheearthministries.com, I believe, is their website. saltoftheearthministries.com. We can put it in the description so that you guys can find them. And Sanctified Supply Co. We should put both those links in the description. But Salt of the Earth Ministries, and let me tell you guys, everybody enjoyed them. Everybody had really great things to say about the music they were doing. It was really cool because they knew a lot of our songs, and so people were able to kind of sing along with them because they knew their songs. But they played a lot of their own songs and some other songs people knew, and just did an amazing job. They have a huge family, 10-person family, and most of them play instruments. So it's just
goals.
It's just huge goals, guys. Hashtag goals. Like, we just absolutely want to follow in that. It's just such an awesome ministry, and it's super unique, really. I mean, I've never seen 5 guitarists play in one band, so it was really cool to see 5 guitarists playing together and playing really well together. They're like glue. They're just so synchronized, so just solid. I mean, you can tell they practice. Like, they're great. Check them out. They're starting to get new music out there. They've got a few songs on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music. So go check them out on the streaming platforms. But they filled in for us for most of the time at Sukkot. So that was huge. And so we thank you. Thank you guys, Alberton family. But anyway, so praise God for them. They filled in for the first half of Sukkot. But we kind of have a testimony here with all this. We were just sitting at home, had our sukkah canopy in the back of our house in our backyard, and we were just kind of sitting there trying to do Sukkot, and we weren't doing Sukkot. We weren't rejoicing in Yah. We weren't worshiping like we should be. We weren't, taking time with Yah. Honestly, we were just being really attacked. We had massive attacks. It was very difficult for us, and
it just felt so wrong.
Yeah.
Like
going against the grain of what Yah has told us to do, That's how it felt. But once we started kind of pondering this and we started seeking it out, seeking out what it meant to keep Sukkot, and I kind of reached out to some other people, we kind of realized, okay, this isn't. Ruth was like, we've got to go.
Lyndon was doing this scripture study looking into Sukkot, and
every time it talks about keeping Sukkot,
it's all about in the assembly, when you gather together.
In the place where Yahuwah chooses, that's where you gather. But I think we've, at least for us, we've got a lot of refining and a lot of things to learn. And we learned a big, valuable lesson, and that is to keep Yahuwah's commandment regardless,
no matter
how hard it seems it's going to be.
No matter how you feel, what's going on.
Just keep it.
His ways are more important.
So we were feeling that conviction, and so we ended up overnight getting an RV and just going. And we were able to get there and set up and do Sukkot like the Father had put it on our hearts to do so. And we were able to really enjoy the rest of the feast. And I'm thankful that we at least did something midway through and got to be a part of that, at least the last great day and a couple of days before that and a couple of days after that. And so it was really amazing to be able to join in even at the last bit there. And so if you were following along on Parable of the Vineyards live streams of Sukkot, you could see that we joined in at the very end there. And we were able to lead worship, which was totally a blessing, huge blessing. And I'll tell you what, for me, when we first drove into the camp, I felt different. I felt totally different. I felt like this is where we need to be. And it was tough for us. Like, it was tough because, we got to balance these babies and children and trying to do worship and trying to get things done there. And, me being a leader of that, it was difficult to kind of balance things, but we were able to do it. And
it was such a blessing.
Such a blessing.
Huge blessing. Like, praise Yah that he convicted us to go and celebrate it with everyone. Like,
It was huge.
it's
It was
always,
awesome.
I mean, every year it's like, it's the best time of our lives, you know?
Yeah.
Yeshua comes to save. He is risen from the grave. Let us dance and sing and shout, for He is alive. Yeshua comes to save. He is risen from the grave. Let us dance and sing and shout, for He is alive. Oh, He's alive. Oh, He's alive.
Going on to the next update here, we're really excited to just continue to put out new songs. We've got a lot of songs coming that we are in the works, making and preparing and creating. And so hang tight, because we've got quite a few songs we want to work on. And so hopeful to get those rolling here as soon as we can. We just want to tell you guys, we're so thankful for you. We're very thankful for your prayers and support and for being patient with us.
Oh, yeah.
I know we're not putting as much content out as we used to.
Yeah.
You probably noticed that our style of putting songs out kind of changed.
Mm-hmm.
We used to just sit there, right there, and just get the song done, and it would just be guitar and violin, and or guitar and piano, and it would just be our voices, and we just do it all one go. But then we started adding some other instruments, some bass, percussion. And so that kind of, we shifted to a different style, and then we shifted to a different videography style.
And there was also
reasons for that.
Yeah, just like, I feel like the main reason was our beloved son was transitioning to a different time in his life where he's not sleeping as much, and he's not, you know.
guys, you families, you parents, you know what we're talking about. Toddlers, they'll keep you on your feet. And so he doesn't take as long of a nap anymore, and used to take 2 naps, now only 1 nap.
And our only time to record was when he was asleep, unless we were doing a video with him. He really needed his sleep, so we didn't want to risk waking him up by recording. And so it just worked out so much better when
one of us would go.
Yah gave us the brilliant idea to just start recording separately or individually.
Right.
And it's so much more efficient. Praise Yah.
Our songs are going to shift into more of that style, which actually ends up being a better produced song.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any bleed of different instruments and vocals and different things like that. So it does help in production of the song. So we hope you're enjoying that and enjoying the videos and the different, now a little better quality and recording.
Yeah. We'd love to know what you guys think about it.
Yes, we just appreciate all of you, and we're very thankful, especially just for your prayers for our ministry. Keep it up, because Satan loves to attack us and tries to hit us when he can, but we've got Yah. We've got
is our
Yahuwah.
strength.
He's our strength, so we have no fear and no worries. But your prayers really help, so praise Yah. But anyway, we hope you guys are all blessed in Yahuwah and his son Yeshua's name.
Yes. Yah bless you guys. Shalom.
Shalom.
Killing of innocent people, hate and persecutions, earthquakes, fire and floods, love growing cold, but we have something to hold firmly inside our hearts. Faith and hope that soon this will pass, and only his name, Yeshua, will last. Time is passing by, and soon we will fly. We'll see his coming through the sky. Yeshua.